Welcome to another episode of Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Today's episode is brought to you by Izzy's Legacy. Izzy's Legacy is my nonprofit organization that educates those of minority backgrounds on the need to join the NMDP National Stem Cell Registry. We are here to save lives. You can too. Please visit izzy'slegacyinc.org to find out how you can help. We help people in two ways: joining the registry so we can save lives, and we show you how easy that is right on that website. And also, we assist families who are on a cancer journey financially. So if that is you, if you are hearing me today and you are going through a cancer journey yourself or someone in your family, please visit izzy'slegacyinc.org to see how we can help you. Well, my next guest, I am so excited. We have been trying to get together for this interview for quite a while. We got to talking a couple of months ago about a lot of shared experiences with the narcissistic personality. And it is such an important subject. It is something that so many people are going through, whether in their personal lives or in their professional lives at work. So I am really excited to have my next guest here who's going to delve right into that. She helps people who are going through this. And her name is Rania. She is a relationship coach, Reiki practitioner. That's something, again, that we also share. Transformational speaker and founder of R2R Coaching. Rania's mission is to help women in toxic relationships uncover the abuse, heal their traumas, and rebuild their life. Through her YouTube channel, Rania is adamant to educate about narcissistic patterns, sharing tips and tools on how to survive a narcissistic dynamic. She is following her calling to raise awareness about NPD and serve those who are ready to embark on their journey of healing. Let's welcome Rania to the show. Good morning, beautiful.
Good morning, Marilyn. Thank you for the introduction.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am excited. We've had several conversations about this subject, and I get all fired up every single time we talk about it. All right. I have friends, I have families, I myself have had in my professional life relationships like this. I really want to delve into your story and why you've decided that this is a subject that you're going to tackle and help others with. So share with my viewers about a little bit about your background in this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, just to start off, most of us who've ended up in this type of work of helping others is because we've been through it ourselves most of the time. And I'm no different. My story is that I've been involved in narcissistic relationships most of my life. And it took the last one that I was in, which was a marriage, that opened my eyes to the abusive patterns that led me to educate myself about what this is. Then I understood that I was in a narcissistic relationship and that I was dealing with narcissism. And just my eyes opened up and it's like, oh my God, that's what I've been living and experiencing all this time. And I did not know it. And after getting out of that relationship, because I left my narcissist, I had to go through my journey of healing. And it was very tough because it was not just about that. I was actually healing also childhood trauma. So it was really heavy work that I had to do, confronting myself with what I wished I never had to, but I had to. So I did the work, and while doing that work, I decided that I was going to pivot in my business that I was recently just starting, being a coach, a relationship coach. I decided to specialize in the dynamic of the toxic relationship now that I've been through it, going through it, and going through the process of healing. So it made sense to me that that's where my passion now is, or perhaps I was meant to be there all along. That was my calling and I did not know it. And now that it presented itself along my path, that now it's time for me to listen to that voice that, hey, maybe this is your calling. This is your path, So I ended up just starting on down that path, and here I am doing what I can, and I'm growing it as it goes. That's the brief.
Right. And what are the most difficult situations when you're dealing with these kind of toxic relationships, right? Is the acknowledgement that it's a toxic relationship that, especially with the narcissistic, and there's different kinds of narcissistic, right?
Yes.
Personalities, and the severity of it is different also, right? So sometimes you don't even know. Many
Yes.
times I think people don't even know that they're in it. You talk about not just this marriage one, right? But that previous relationships were also the same and you didn't recognize that either. So were you involved in those kind of relationships as a child too? Now that you look back, were there personalities like that as you were growing up that you were exposed to?
Yes, I was able to see it in family members.
Okay. So then for you, interestingly, it was normal because you didn't know anything different.
Yeah, we would shrug it off as, oh, that's just who they are. Oh, they're just like, they have a temper, or they're just stubborn, or they're just mean. So
Mm,
we would use words and justify the toxic and abusive behavior as, oh, that's just who they are, or that's just how our culture is. That's a big
right.
one. It's like, well,
Culture.
yeah, when I started actually speaking out about it with family members, explaining the behavior and calling out who has that narcissistic patterns, I was told, but Rania, that's like the whole culture. I go, well, then the whole culture is narcissistic then. Then maybe it's time to educate people that this is not normal, that this is actually toxic and abusive. How is this accepted? It
It,
actually, like, how I get so angry about it. It's mind-boggling that people have
can you
come to the
separate that? Can you separate that though? Because there is a cultural flavor to a lot of these behaviors. Have you been able to identify how can you distinguish between it is a cultural acceptable behavior and that this person is actually a narcissist? Like
it's
how do you tell the difference?
it's difficult. I'm not gonna say that it's easy, but what's important to notice that there is a pattern in repeated, because that's what narcissism is. It's a pattern of behaviors being repeated. It's not a one-time thing that they do it and then you call them a narcissist. You understand what I'm saying? You can't call everybody a narcissist. We sometimes use that term very loosely.
Mm,
However, as human beings, we all have tendencies to act narcissistically, right? But
mhm.
first, you need to understand what is involved. What are those narcissistic behaviors before we just talk about the term in general, right? Because it's too complicated. And sometimes people don't understand. They think narcissism is like egotistical. They think that's what all narcissism is, that, oh, you're just into yourself, or you're just, all you think about is yourself. But it's way more than that. And it's the lack of education. It's the fact that people don't know what else is involved under that narcissism umbrella. That's why they're not able to call it out as narcissistic behavior or narcissistic
Right.
tendency. So we all have tendencies to act that way. I've noticed in myself as I was self-reflecting that we're doing some of those things. And I was like, whoa,
Mm,
but that doesn't qualify that, like, I would not be called a narcissist, but just some behaviors that I've picked up. Because remember, you
that's right.
copy what you see, right? And you copy mostly where you're the environment where you grew up in, right?
Right.
So you copy that and you don't realize that it's narcissistic until you educate yourself and you start to realize, whoa, that's not okay, I should not be doing that. Can I give you an example of one of those things?
Yes.
The silent treatment. The silent treatment can be used in different ways and for different reasons. So when I started to notice that I was doing the silent treatment, I was protecting myself. So I was taking a step back and cutting communication with the person that hurt me or upset me. So in my mind, my intention is, I just want to take some time for me and I don't want to talk to that person. But I did not realize the effect it's having on that person. Meanwhile, I experienced that growing up. When I wasn't a good girl, right?
Mhm.
I was given the silent treatment. But at that time, the silent treatment was used as punishment, as a
Right.
means to control, as a means to manipulate, as a means to get you to conform on that
Right.
in that dynamic. So I grew up seeing it being done to me. So then I was doing it to others that were younger than me. It was passed on, right?
Absolutely. These are something that we call generational not I forget the word, but it's something that it's a chain, right? So it's almost like a chain that links up. So you get taught this, then you start doing it, and then your grandchildren now are going to get done this, or whoever. Culturally, these are generational chains that need to be broken, right? They're part of those negative behaviors that once we're educated on it, we need to break them so that they don't continue, so that we improve the future of our generational line and our just who we are as a people, right? And I think that that's a very important thing that you said, was the fact that you recognized and acknowledged. The narcissistic person does not recognize or acknowledge that they've done anything wrong. They see nothing wrong with that. So that's a good way to say, okay, this person may be, because I think you're right. We use that term very loosely, right? But they see nothing wrong with what they're doing. They think it's perfectly acceptable. Go ahead, continue.
You're like, whoa, this is good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, back to your question when you're saying, how do you recognize? Again, I went back to saying it's a pattern, right? So when I want to talk about culture, and I know this is a big statement for me to make, I come from an Arabic background. So for me to make a statement saying that my culture is narcissistic, I don't say this loosely. I say it because I've seen it, I've lived it, and it's easier to observe it when you take a step back and look at everything around you. It's even in our movies and our soap operas. Do you know how annoyed I become when I sit and I watch a series and I see the actors behaving in such a way where it's all the things that are abusive and toxic and wrong, and then I see the reactions from the other actors or whatever in I know it's a movie, it's a script, but the
Right,
script is actually indicative of what's happening in real life. They're not bringing those stories and movies and scripts out of nowhere. A lot of
right,
times it's from real life experiences. So what you're seeing on the screen is a depiction of what's happening in real life, and it's acceptable. Where I mean, I understand with cultures there's other things involved. If you're in a closed culture, that the girl has no say who she's going to marry,
right.
because that's what the culture says. You're supposed to respect your mom and your dad. They tell you, I know what's best for you, and you just do it. And now the girl has to marry someone she doesn't want to marry. And then she ends up being in an abusive relationship. He's a narcissist in all, terms.
Right. So
There's
tell me,
disrespect, but
in these movies that you're watching, are they depicted as something positive? Are those behaviors looked at, okay, this is okay, this is good, or is the outcome of the movie that she finally breaks free from these negative behaviors that are surrounding her?
it depends on the interpretation of the people watching it. And if the people watching it are so used to this, they say, yeah, they laugh about it. And they don't see nothing wrong with it. They're like, yeah, yeah, that's what happened to so and so. Oh yeah, yeah. And they make it such a normal thing, like it's just normal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so what's the big deal? And to the point that sometimes they justify and say, well, she deserves to get beaten.
Oh my Lord.
That's the message. That's the message that the people sitting there watching these things, that it's okay, that's normal. So then the woman that's being abused in her home, watching the same series, stating or like showing what she's actually living in real life, then it makes it look like, oh, well, I guess if it's on the movies, then I guess it's normal what I'm going through, that my husband beats me from time to time, and I'm not allowed to go see my mother because I have to take his permission, and so on. So, I mean, the list goes on of
Right.
behaviors
Right.
I can tell you, but I'm just giving you a few things. It makes it okay. It makes it normal. It makes even the educated people who have gone and has the university degrees and even traveled outside of the country to learn what real life and what manners and behaviors need to be, they too get brainwashed thinking, and then they end up saying, well, Rania, this is our culture. That's what I'm like, what
Blows your mind. Blows
what
your
do you
mind.
mean? And it makes it okay when it's not okay. It's narcissistic. It's
Mm.
abusive. Let's call it what it is. It's not okay for a man to lay his hand on a woman for no reason, none whatsoever. But the culture makes it okay.
So did you learn and accept this because you're out here in the United States? Do you think that if you were in your own country that you would be thinking differently?
I believe if my parents haven't immigrated, well, I'm in Canada, by the way, just to, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if I believe if my parents haven't immigrated here when I was at a very young age, um, my life would have probably been very different. I wouldn't be the same Rania that's sitting here in front of you today. I believe it was meant to be, everything that happened, the immigration at the age that I came at, and all the experiences I had to go through, and me breaking free and rebelling against the culture and rebelling against everything. It brought me to the point of where I am here, hopefully advocating and hopefully making a change in the future for my culture. I don't know how I can do that, but who knows? Really, who knows? The future has.
Right. So you find you're in Canada, you said, right? So you have, there are others of your same background, cultural backgrounds who are thinking similar to you? Or do you find that there's opposition? I know people mention this is our culture and that's it. And it makes you crazy. But are there also others who want to do the same thing as you and bring a different message forward?
Some rebel and some conform.
What do you think the difference is between the rebellious Rania and the conforming other person? Do you think it's, what do you think?
Hard
What
to
makes you
say.
different? What makes you rebel? What makes you this rebellious
I want to say I
Rania?
was born with that. That's
Okay.
what I want to say. I feel that you're born with it because it's not something you learn. I think it's a fire. It's a fire within you
Right.
that you're like, no, this is not okay. No, you question, right? So there are people, almost everybody questions. But then what do you do with the question? Do you say, I'm not going to change the world. Let me just have peace. I
Right.
chose not to have peace in my life, let me tell you,
You
without
chose.
knowing that that's what I was doing. But what I ended up doing is that I've always chosen to fight back and not accept and not conform, even if it caused me to lose everything. Do you know how many start overs that I had to do? I lost count. Do you want to know how many moves I had to make? I don't know what home is for me.
Mm.
I don't know what is home because of the many moves I've made. And I'm talking houses, apartments, countries,
Jobs.
jobs. OMG.
So listen, yeah, because we talked about personal relationships, and it sounds like you were rebelling even before your last relationship with your spouse, right? You were already rebelling against that, and he was just the icing on the cake, and you were like, "That's it, I'm done, and I'm going to educate myself more about this and help other people not to fall into this." Right? That's how I'm going to rebel. But one of the conversations we got into is that even if because I've never experienced a personal relationship like this or close one. I've been married with my husband 30 years. He's nothing like that. He's quite the opposite. And even culturally, we have this machista kind of background, right? Latinos have. And so he's actually very different than that typical Latin man that you would find. And I give that all to his mother. His mother, raised him differently. There's 3 boys that she had, and she made sure that they had a respect for women. So, hats off to her for doing that. But certainly there are relationships that are also important to us that are not that intimate relationship. But every day we go off to work and we spend 8, 10, sometimes 16 hours as a nurse, 16 hours in a location. And these people become your second family and they affect you because they financially affect you, right? So they hold this other thing over you. Let's talk a little bit about narcissism in the workplace, right? And how does that translate in the people that you coach and in what you've seen yourself?
Again, I'm going to say that without the education of what narcissistic behavior really means or entails, you're not going to be able to see it. And since I had no clue about this narcissism my whole life up until this last situation a few years back, I did not recognize it while it was happening. But now, as I self-reflect and look back, I start to look at every situation and go, oh my God, that one too. Oh my God, this one too. So I believe there's a common denominator here.
Mm-hmm.
When you find yourself in a pattern of narcissistic relationships, whether it be with romantic relationships or friends or workplaces, the common denominator is you. So now let's figure out, why is it that you end up in those situations? Let's ask that question. Why? And I'm not going to say because there is something wrong with you, because there is nothing wrong with anyone. We are who we are, the way we are, and we're always evolving and improving on a journey in this life. So it's not that you're broken or you need to be fixed. No. But if we were to dig deep inside ourselves and find trauma that hasn't been healed, where it comes from insecurities, where it comes from fear, where it comes from uncertainty, where it comes from people pleasing, among other things. All of those things are what's gonna be a reason, one of the causes as to why you stay in those relationships, including the work relationship dynamic. We all work because why? We need to pay the bills. Some people love their work and they really go to work and because they enjoy it and it's their serving, it's their mission. But in addition to that, you're getting a paycheck because you need to have a roof over your head, food on the table, family to take care of, children, and you're dependent on it. So there is that pressure on you to remain in a position where you have steady income coming in. And that's where fear comes in. And you end up staying in a place where you're being narcissistically abused. And that could include verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sometimes physical abuse, depending on the situation, right? You're manipulated, you're controlled, you're being gaslit, all of that can happen in the workplace.
That's right. Make you think that you're crazy. And the things that you're recognizing and acknowledging, that's not what I meant by that. You just looked at that the wrong way. But guess what? If you're not the only one looking at it that way in the workplace, and here's another indicator, you're not the only one that feels that way, right? Your coworkers are feeling the very same way. Now, I shared a story with you about one of my first workplace relationships, and it was our boss, right? It was a director of nurses that was at the place. And I was in my early 20s. And as everybody know, when you're in your early 20s and you're living at home and you're fearless, because you could care less, right? So I'm going to tell you about yourself. And if you fire me, oh, well, I'll just walk across the street and get another job somewhere else when you're young and don't have children, right? So here is where I recognized I didn't know the term for it. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that it didn't feel right, not just to myself, but everybody else. But this particular person had parked her car in the parking lot of where we worked, because she couldn't find, this was in New York City, she couldn't find a parking spot where she was. So she parked it close by and walked to the restaurant where she was going to have dinner. Everyone that was working at the time looked out the window and saw her vehicle. And the sight of her vehicle put them into a panic. She wasn't even in the building. She was nowhere near us. They were panicking because of fear that she was in there, that she was watching them, that she would pop up out of nowhere. And even if they were doing nothing wrong, that she would find something wrong because she never had anything good to say, right? So that way that they were acting, I was like, oh my God, there is a sickness here and I'm not willing to continue here. And I ended up leaving. Right. And I encouraged them to leave too, but they were in a different place in their life, right, than I was. And they just couldn't pick up and leave like I did. But I was like, I'm not going to continue this. And I had told her about herself before, right? I was very vocal about stuff. And, she'd make you think like you were crazy. And I'm like, I know I'm not crazy because I'm not the only one feeling this way. So if you're experiencing something like that and you're not the only one, check and see. Again, to your point, fantastic. The common denominator is you. I love that you said that. because only you can change your circumstances. I always tell people, there's a lot of things that you think you can control, but the only thing you can control is you, not your circumstances, not the people, right? You, your response and your reaction to them. So talk to me more about that.
Yeah, I'd love to add to what you said. So you said you were fearless when you were younger
Yeah.
and you confronted it, said it like it is because you had nothing to lose. My journey was a little bit different. I struggled. So I had to be careful because I was only dependent on myself during my early 20s to take care of me. I had nobody to support me because I had already
Right.
rebelled and now I'm on my own. So that's the thing about rebelling. When you rebel, you find yourself alone a lot of times.
Yes, ma'am.
And but having said that, you still have angels watching out for you, and somehow, some way, things always work out. I never believe you're totally alone. In the physical world, you may seem alone, but you're never alone.
That's right.
Yeah, coming back to this point, when I was younger, I was more like, okay, well, let me shut my mouth and not speak and just that's being silenced. It's the not speaking
Right.
your truth. And I think that's why I was getting sick a lot when I was younger.
Yes.
Sore
Hmm.
throat. Now I understand. My throat chakra was so blocked because I was not speaking my
Wow.
truth.
That's
It is
important.
only when
That's
I
important.
did.
Say that again. Say that
Yes,
again, please, for
yes.
those that are out
Throat
there.
My throat chakra was blocked because I was not speaking.
So what is a throat chakra? For those that are watching that don't understand that, what is your
So,
throat chakra and what does
so
it
yeah, just
govern?
so yeah, just quickly, we have seven main chakra points in our body, and the throat chakra here is the area the way you speak with yourself, your communication. Okay, it's all about the
Mhm.
way you speak with yourself, the way you express yourself with others. So if you're holding yourself back from speaking or from defending yourself or from standing up to yourself, even it ends up not working properly the way it needs, so it's blocked energetically, right? So we need to clear the energy around you in order to open that up, and that requires work. One of them is Reiki, which you and I do, and then there's other modalities too that you could explore. But yeah, just briefly, that's what I
Right.
can
This
say.
is on a, yeah, briefly, it's just an energetic level. And when you find yourself not being able to speak up, it gets blocked and it manifests in illness, right? And that's an important thing. So you were getting sick. What kind of sicknesses were you experiencing?
I would say colds and sore throats, a lot of sore throats.
Same thing. Upper respiratory, those kind of things are governed by that same chakra.
And
So,
since I've done my Reiki work and I've been doing, I don't get sore throats as much anymore, and that's the crazy part. Like, touch wood, I hope I don't. But I mean, it has totally almost eliminated. It's not coming.
amen. Amen. Your
Yes.
immune system, right? Just clear. There's lots of things that can be helped for those of you searching for. I'm having blockages. I find myself, having this. Reach out to Rania. She can help you with how to unblock these kind of situations. There's a lot of tools that we use in our toolbox to help those things. But the bigger help is for you to acknowledge and recognize your role in this, right? How you can then change you. Because again, we're going to talk about these people that are very difficult to change, right? So we don't want you to do that. We want you to do the inner work and change you and what you accept, right? That's the biggest thing about your coaching is changing you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm 100% believer in that. And that's what I work on, because it's not about the situation that you're in. It's not about the person. And that's why I said you're the common denominator. And
I love
sorry if
that.
I bring it back to me again. But I was the one that was allowing myself to be abused. You know how hard that was to come to the realization that I'm allowing it. I'm allowing myself to be abused from family members. I am allowing myself to be abused by friends. They're walking over me, they're using me, whatever it may, they're lying to me, gaslighting me, um, stabbing me in the back, ruining my other relationships because they're jealous of me and how people love me. But that's okay. You gotta let it go. And then, of course, there's the workplace part, the one we were just talking about.
Same thing. You'll have people in the workplace that are very competitive, right? If they see that you have this light, and Rania, you do have a beautiful light all over you. They will see that you're beautiful inside and out. They want that for themselves. So envy is a pretty powerful thing. And they will try to become your friends and become close to you just to figure out, how is she doing this? What is she doing? So that I can then replicate that in my own life. And they're not truly your friends. Your friends, you will know there is an internal compass, right? That says this feels right or it doesn't feel right. You got these antennas that are coming up. And when you look at this and you look back, you're like, oh God, my stomach would feel in knots every time this person was around, or I would feel a certain way. You have to look at that energetic part of you. You are not just a physical body. You know, when your antennas are up, pay attention. There's something about this relationship, friendship, whatever it is, even if it's a casual relationship at work, that there's an antenna that goes off and says, there's something strange here. If it
I
doesn't, if
learned.
it feels good,
Mhm.
then it probably is good.
I learned to listen to that more recently, because in my younger days, I don't want to call myself naive, but I just want to say that I always
Inexperienced is
believed,
better. Inexperienced.
yeah, you're right. Experience better than naive. I always wanted to believe that everyone is pure at heart, because I
Yeah,
believe that everyone is born with purity. We're not born evil, we're born pure. It's life and whatever happens to us, and then how we choose to show up in the world afterwards, is what changes us and makes us like this, including narcissists. And I always say this when I speak, I hate talking so passionately badly in a negative way about narcissists, because they're human beings too. They're
right,
suffering too. The reason why they are the way they are is because they want to be loved and accepted so much. They have so much insecurities within them. They have trauma that they never healed,
right,
but they have chosen to handle it by abusing others, by these coping mechanisms that are so toxic and abusive, in order to feel better about themselves or in order to live in the world. And they're never really happy because they're going about it the wrong way, but they're so wrapped up into themselves that they see that they're doing no wrong, exactly like you said, and they end up just projecting it on you. Everything that they do and they say and they think is a they project it on their victim, on whoever it is that is in their lives. And
right.
that's what we're dealing with, right? And I hate to call ourselves victims. I call myself a survivor.
Survivor.
I'm a survivor of narcissistic abuse in all angles. And let me tell you about my last survival skill. You know how I said
Yes.
in my late 20s, I was I was more the conforming, because I had to take care of myself. It is
Hmm.
after I went through the journey of the healing and educating myself about narcissism and picking out on the behavior. And I was like fresh here now. My antennas are up. All that's going on now.
Good.
And I ended up in another toxic work environment. After I thought, no more, I will never be with narcissists ever again. This is my delusion, thinking that I can avoid them, or that I will not have um, more opportunities in life where I will meet them. And I think that's the lesson I needed to learn in this particular one. One of the lessons, anyway, is that
Hmm.
you can't avoid meeting narcissists in your life or in your journey. It's
Right.
equipping yourself with the tools in how to handle them, and knowing when to walk away when you don't have to deal with them, to protect yourself. There are situations where, for example, again, we go back to family members, is sometimes tough to just cut them out of your life completely. But others, you can. If it's for your best interest, you can cut these toxic people out of your life because they drain the out of you.
Yeah, that's right. And your friends can drain you, right? That's another thing I have to look at, the people that you think are your friends. But if they were truly your friends, they would be making you feel good every day, right? As my daughter calls it, hyping me up, right? They would be, totally supporting me in everything that I do. Um, so you look at all of those things. And yeah, to your point, you're gonna run into them because you don't know. They're
Yes,
everywhere.
they're
They're
everywhere.
100% everywhere.
And you
So,
cannot see the
and family,
behaviors.
I just
Mhm.
wanted to say that family, you said, there we can't change our families, but we can love them from afar. That's another tip. right?
Distance,
Love them from far
distance
away.
yourself. You don't share with them too much information about you, because the less they know about you, the less they can hurt you,
That's right.
especially emotionally, because they know how to play on those emotions, and they know the buttons to press to get you all flustered. Because what narcissists want you to do is what? React. In your reaction is where they get their supply.
Yes.
That's
Supply
how
and
they
demand.
feel good about themselves.
Yeah. They don't think of you as important as you think of them. Right. And so this narcissistic person you think is important to you, and because you're a different kind of person, you want to help them and you want to do this, but you are disposable to them. And remember that.
Because they are
Right.
living in that delusional world. They're not, they're here is not the same as you. So when you're sitting there thinking, but why are they doing this? This doesn't make sense. You're damn right this doesn't make sense. Because they're not thinking like you.
Right.
They're not in the same world as you are in. They're living in their own world, right? And again, back to what I was saying about you feel it and you learn to listen to your body. That one of my last let's say career job situations I was in, where I discovered I ended up with one again. In the beginning, the person was very nice, like the nicest person you would think. But then the patterns, like I started to observe the pattern, right, of the behavior. And then I'll go, okay, tick, there goes one.
Give me an example. Give us examples of that.
For me, it was the lying. Well, at the workplace,
Lying.
there's not going to be love bombing and stuff like that, right? But the love bombing
Right.
can happen in different ways. For the viewers who don't know what love bombing is, it's just the intensity of the love that happens between two people in the beginning of a relationship. So love bombing would be more for the romantic relationship, but for work relationships, it could be a lot of empty promises of how you're gonna there's growth opportunities in here, and there's more money that you're going to be given. Your salary is going to be raised. It's all the promises to make it look like, oh, look, there's this and this and this and this. So you're like, oh, wow, this is a great opportunity, right? So what do? You trust. Because what else are you going to do? You got to give the benefit of the doubt. If in every interaction you start to meet people and you don't believe them from the get-go, then what are you doing? You're hurting yourself. Right? You have to give the benefit of the doubt. You cannot change who you are. You cannot change your kindness, your goodness, your loving nature. You be you. But you keep your eyes open and your ears open. Right? So you get into it believing that everybody is good. Then let them show you who they really are. But don't take too long, and don't justify the behavior, and don't excuse it, because that's when we end up being in the trauma bond, being traumatized, living in fear, not speaking our truth, and being abused. And then this is when you're going to sit like how I sat a little while ago here saying, I allowed it. If you come to the point where you will recognize the pattern and you still don't do anything about it, the least you could do in a workplace is just leave. You don't always have to go confronting the person, because like you said earlier, they don't change. So it actually doesn't make a difference if you go and have it in with them and tell them, you. It's not going to get you anywhere.
That's right.
It's just a waste of your energy and your time.
That's right.
The best thing to do to protect yourself from these situations is not to react, not give them the supply that they need. You know that they're pushing your buttons, so don't give into it. You see it clearly. They're lying. They're gaslighting you. They're changing the story of what happened. They made empty promises that for things you're never going to get. So then what do? You find another place and go. Is it that simple? I know it's not that simple. Looking for other jobs, and especially if you're in an area that doesn't have much opportunities or whatnot. But you do something about it. You don't
try
just
at least.
Yeah,
try at least. Don't leave like tomorrow, right? But you can start. What can you do? Update your resume, put your stuff out there, continue to apply to other places so that you have an exit plan.
Yeah, and network. Because sometimes you just talk to people and say, hey, I was looking for this. Do you know anybody that's looking for this or whatever? If you find something, what do you have to lose? You got to put yourself out there. But it's all about the recognition, admitting it to yourself, and saying, I want to change my circumstance. And I did that. And oh boy, let me tell you, of course I did it in a little bit different way. I did the confronting. I chose the confronting part.
Oh, you did?
Because you know what? My whole life I did it. My
Okay.
whole work relationships, now that I look back, it's all been and done with now, right? I can't go back in time. So now I'm making up for all the other times
That you didn't
where
stand up for yourself.
all I did was come home and cry. And I was like, I'm not crying. I'm in my power. What do I have to lose? What's holding me back? I get fired? Okay.
Thank
I was
you.
ready.
I'm gonna go collect now.
I was ready for that. Go ahead. But I'm speaking my truth, because why? My throat chakra's open.
Yes, yes. And how did that feel?
Liberating. Oh my God, so free. After I said it all, I was like, oh. And then I went to celebrate. I celebrated after I said it all. But guess what? Here's the funny part. After I confronted this person, my boss,
Mhm.
with the toxic behavior, saying that, by the way, you're a narcissist, in their face, I wasn't fired immediately. I wasn't. I came back to work the next day
Oh my God.
and for days on after.
Also, you weren't fired immediately. They took their time with it.
Only because I had another confrontation in which I kicked it up a notch.
Got it. Got it. Of course, this is a narcissistic person. Did they acknowledge what you were saying? Did they recognize
Absolutely not.
themselves in what you were saying?
They
Absolutely
they
not. Because I
proved
want
they
people to hear
proved it.
this.
They proved my point altogether, which is go around in circles.
Mhm.
You know word salad?
Yes. Word salad.
Okay,
Mhm.
if the people are watching here don't know what word salad is, it's literally when you're having a conversation with someone trying to talk about a particular thing, they would change the subject, start talking about random things that have nothing to do, to distract you from the point that you're talking about, and then start finding things that you did wrong some other time in the past, just to distract, right? So the word salad was going on, and just like guilting and manipulating everything that was in the toolbox for this person, they got it out. And I was like, bam, bam, bam. And I said, listen, I am in the psychology field. I studied body language. I know when someone is lying and you're lying.
Mm.
In I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. But damn, look at me smiling.
Yeah, I know the glow that you have just because you stood in your power
Yes.
and you defended yourself. You took it
Yes.
away from them. And we, guys, we're all equally as powerful. It is what we allow into our lives. So this is so impactful. This is so beautiful. Thank you, Rania. Thank you for sharing all those tips and tools. And one other thing I want to mention is, a part of the observation is observing not just how you're being treated, but how those around you are being treated as well. If you're seeing this, not with yourself, and this happened in relationships that I've seen at work as well, it wasn't to me, but I saw it to somebody else. I saw the way that other people were being treated, yelled at, screamed at, talked down to. And if they were willing to do that to that person, they're going to do it to me too eventually.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
observe. Your antennas are
Yeah.
up. Don't accept it. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. But guess the icing on the cake with all of this.
What was that?
After I was let go, I get a much better job offer, and I end up in an
Wow.
amazing place that was beyond my expectation. It's like I was rewarded by God, the universe, the divine, for actually standing up to myself.
Wow.
And it didn't
Wow.
take long.
Incredible.
It was immediate. It was 2 days later. 2 days later.
Incredible.
And that was a confirmation that, yeah, Rania, I have no fear. Now I'm not encouraging every person out there who ends up discovering that they are dealing with a boss who is narcissist to go and do confronting and say, yeah, it's not
Right.
about that. That was
That's
my journey. When I'm sharing this journey, that was my journey. I needed to do this for me
right.
because that's the path I'm on. It was necessary for me, and I could do it, and I knew I could get away with it. Right. Um, but not everybody needs to be doing that. Exactly what you said earlier. Educate yourself, open your eyes, don't dismiss what's happening, don't excuse the behavior and say, oh, it's because, oh, poor them, they have this going on, because there's always going to be something going on. It does not excuse abuse or toxicity or lying
That's right.
or manipulating or controlling or any of those behaviors that we are familiar of. That does not make it okay. And listen to the feeling you have in your body when you're around that person, or that person shows up, if they suck the energy out of the room, or if everybody's on edge, or if like no one's smiling or laughing anymore. Observe those things. That these are all clues, right? So if you cannot leave, or maybe it's not necessary to leave the job because it's a good job or whatever, learn how to cope in a dynamic. You can still work with narcissists. You could still be in relationship with narcissists. Just learn how to deal with it, right? Educate yourself and go to people, talk to them, get help. That would
Right.
be my advice.
The bigger one is get help. Talk with somebody like Rania who coaches on just that, who can teach you how to recognize, acknowledge, and most importantly, how to change yourself. All right. So that you can build your personal toolbox, not just with that, but in so many, that translates into so many other situations in your life to be able to move to the next level. So I truly believe in your coaching skills. You are fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And before I leave you, I would love to hear your definition of success.
You know, that word used to scare me because I looked at it with the eyes of the society I lived in. It was predetermined for me. Success was supposed to be, you have a university degree that you put on a plaque, and you get married, you get kids, you live the happily ever after, and then everybody like sees you with like nice status, right?
Right.
That changed for me so much that now I don't see success as any of those things. For me, success is right now. I am success right now. And in every moment, I am success. And in the previous moments, I was success. I'm success because I am me. I am success because I am living my truth, speaking my truth, and educating my truth. Showing up in the world every day as I am with the situation that I'm in. It doesn't need to be perfect. I don't need to have everything. But being authentic for me is success. There's nothing better than that for me. It's not anything on the outside I have to have in order to make myself or feel that I am success. And I don't need anybody's approval or for them to see me as successful for me to feel success. Whether they do or don't, it's none of my business. It's me and what I feel about me. Right here, right now, Rania is success.
Beautiful. That has to be the best definition of success that I have heard thus far. Thank you so much once again for being here with me today. And for my viewers, I will see you next time. Bye bye.